All right, Shalawam Akim out there. First and foremost, before I start, I want to give all praises to Yahawah, baha, sham, Yahawashi. Yahawah, that's the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly calls God. Yahawashi, that's the name of his beloved Son, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. Double honor to the apostles of great millstone and peace and mercy to elect by Shem Harakak Wadash. The title of this lesson is 1614 through 1637, The Undeniable Hatred of Thanksgiving, Massacre of the Indians. Through the spirit of Yahawah Shai, I've been doing some in-depth studying on what really happened and how really did this come about. And through the spirit of the Lord, I found it's so the information is so vast. All I could do was just pick what I could, so that because I'll be here forever. Because us being in 2018, you're trying to summon up things that happened, centuries ago. So it was a lot, So what I'm gonna do through the spirit of the Lord, I want to just go in on this, on the truth about Thanksgiving, how what you taught in school, what you shown on the media, and what our oppressors will tell you was totally a lie. And I want to give a little bit of I'm gonna jump into the history, going into it for you. If you one of them people who know about this, maybe some pieces of your puzzle get put together, whatever the case may be. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Let's go into the truth about Thanksgiving. All right, so the first article I want to go into is from eyewitnesstohistory.com. It says the first Thanksgiving in 1620. No, I'm sorry. Before I start, if I may, just to put it out there, we are the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel. All right. The Negroes, Latinos, and Native American descendants, you make up the 12 lost tribes. And here's the chart I have right here. Now, during Thanksgiving, it focuses on the tribe of Gad and Reuben. All right, these two tribes, the Native American Indian and Seminole Indians. More per se, the tribe of Gad. All right, but both of them, which me myself, I strongly believe I am a product of the Black Indians. All right. However it may be, if I fall under the tribe of Gad, I believe I'm from the tribe of Gad. All right, a Native American, a so-called Native American Indian. But I just want to put that under there. I want to put that out there. So the first Thanksgiving is 1621. All right, it says it was not what they had planned. This is talking about when the pilgrims came from over there in the old world. When they came over here, they didn't even plan to. They had different plans, but they end up doing something else. All right, because the Heavenly Father is in control. You have to understand that the Heavenly Father is the one that sent these white people, so-called white people, which in the Bible is known as Edomites, over here to take the land from our people because of us breaking the statute, laws, and the commandments. But it says it was not what they planned. In September of 1620, 120 pilgrims embarked from England aboard the Mayflower. Now, the Mayflower was a boat. I even have a book called Before the Mayflower, and it was just a lot of atrocities going on the Mayflower, dealing with the Negroes. All right. It says their intent was to establish settlement in the Hudson River area, the northern reaches of the recently established Virginia colony. These pilgrims originally was supposed to land. They wanted to land in the Virginia colony, and we know about the Virginia colony. It was the way that the Europeans treated the indigenous people of this land, also with the Negroes, is breathtaking. It says, however, after a 66-day journey, they made landfall some 150 miles north of their target. Whether by design or mishap is unclear. At the eastern tip of Cape Cod in the present-day Massachusetts, they explored the area about a month and then sailed further west into the mainland at the present-day Plymouth. When people say you landed on Plymouth Rock, this is the backdrop story. It was here that they decided to establish a new homeland. Now, when these pilgrims came here, the so-called white man, the Europeans, biblically known as the Edomites, all right, these devils, all right, when they landed here, they didn't even know how to cultivate the land. They didn't know how to treat the land. They didn't even know how to survive. We helped them. All right? We helped them survive here, or they would have just died off. And that was a great mistake which we made, but prophecy had to be fulfilled of the Heavenly Father. It says, for the first few months, the majority of the expedition remained cloistered about the ship, and many succumbed to malnutrition and disease. When they came over here, they was dying off from malnutrition and disease. They were staying in their boats because that's the only safe house that they had. It said it established that half of their numbers died by the following spring. So they had 102, half of them died by spring. With the return of favorable weather, the remaining adventurers abandoned the ship and moved ashore to establish settlements in the wilderness. There they were aided by 2 members of a local Native American tribe to the astonishment of the pilgrims. Both of these good Samaritans spoke English, one Squato, a member of the Patuax tribe. Now, this is where they start to get the line at. When they came over here, they was dying off from disease, and you had so-called Indians, which the word Indian means savage. We ain't savages, right? You had Gadites, all right? God's people, Gadites, helping these people, or what you call today Native Americans helping these people get it together and living over here, which was a grave mistake that we had made. Now, one of them that helped them, one of these guys who helped them, his name was Squato. But it's when you look up this dude Squato, his real name, I guess that was a title he was given, but his real name was Tisquantinum. I don't know if I'm saying it correct or if that's the English equivalent, but that was his name, and it means divine revenge. All right, but before I go into him, let's read a little bit on how they couldn't survive. It says, pilgrims, a matter of survival. These unprepared new arrivals knew little of how to survive the harsh winters in a new world. All right, and you're gonna come to find out when you do studying on the reason why the pilgrims came over here, because when all the articles and documents I ran across is because they was getting expelled out of England, you know, because of their religious beliefs. Matter of fact, let me read this right here. It says, this is on allabouthistory.org. It says, pilgrims, the escape of courageous people. They wasn't courageous, they was devils, just vagabonds, okay? Somebody who's just a wanderer. The scriptures tell you that the Edomites, the so-called white people, keepeth not at home. He always in somebody else's business. He always in somebody else's lands, taking them over, okay? It says the pilgrims were English separatists who found Plymouth colony in 1620. The pilgrims, fleeing religious persecutions, broke away from the Church of English because they felt the church voided biblical principles to the true Christians. No, man. That's what the story is, that they fled from being persecuted. All right, and when you do research on their fleeing, they was fleeing everywhere until they finally found this ship, the Mayflower, and they aborted it and traveled over here thinking they was gonna get to Virginia, but they landed over there in Plymouth Rock, Massachusetts, I believe it's in. It says, but going back to the matters of survival, it says these unprepared new arrivals knew little of how to survive the harsh winters in a new world. After arriving in December 1620, more than half of them died of starvation before spring. Remember I was reading in the last little, the first Thanksgiving? They was dying. But you had guys like Squato who came and helped these dudes, man. Now you're going to hear what they did to Squato was crucial. Now whether, you know, we're going to go into it, but whether Squato became well, we'll go into it. It says by the next winter, an English-speaking Indian named Squato taught the immigrants how to build homes fitting to the climate, when to plant indigenous crops, how to build your house shelter, when to plant certain crops, and how to cook. It says, but there are other parts of the stories that are less known. See? Which means there's so many stories throughout there, it's hard to pick through what is the truth, man. But when you understand a foundation of what the scriptures say, you could pinpoint of what could be the matters of the truth. And we know that the Negroes, Latino Native Americans do not get along with the so-called white men, Europeans today. It's been like that. It's always been like that. And it will ever remain like that. We will never get along because the Heavenly Father put a separation between us two. All right. It says, Governor William Bradford wrote that Squanto was a special instrument sent by the Most High or God for their good their good beyond their expectations, man. Now, let me grab a quick scripture real quick, because I gotta put the scriptures in here because this is a biblical story that's going on here. All right, when you go back to Jacob and Esau, Jacob had 12 sons, which make up the 12 tribes, and Esau was the adversary to Jacob. And Esau's descendants are the so-called white people today. All right. Now, when Isaac, their father, who gave birth to Jacob and Esau, when he was getting ready to die, he blessed them. When you read the story, and this blessings falls all the way down to today. All right. Now, this is when you read the story, Jacob supplanted Esau and got his blessing, and this is what this is what Esau said in his heart concerning Jacob. So the white man versus the Negro, Latino, Native American man. This is what the white man said against you way back then. Genesis 27:41. And Esau hated Jacob because the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart is not as in his chest. Heart goes back to the Hebrew word lab, which means mind. He said in his mind, the days of mourning of my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. So it's always going to be a hatred between us. It's going to be fighting. All right. That's what the story, the biblical story falls down to. That's why when they came over here, they was giving up. We was doing peace treaties between each other, but it couldn't stand. Why? Because there is a divine split there. All right. The so-called white man, according to the Bible, the Edomites are the wicked. And now they're being revealed in their time. This is the day where the Lord's showing us, okay, who is the problem? It's the so-called white man. You know, and who is he biblically? And why is he even doing this? This falls back, going back to biblical story during the Genesis. And it flows through all the Bible, man. All the way up to the time of the Romans, when the Lord was, the Lord who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, Yahawashi is his real name, when he was on the scene. The Romans, the so-called white people they had the priest in their back pocket, controlling us, all right? Because the land of Israel, that's where we was at. The Negroes, the Latino and Native Americans, that was our land. They was controlling us from Rome, having us be wicked. That's why the wicked scribe and Pharisees, being manipulated by the ways of the Romans, put the Lord to death, their own kind, you know, the Lord from the tribe of Judah. It goes deep, but going back to the story, you had that dude Squanto who helped these guys, all right, because they was dying. They couldn't survive here. They couldn't survive. Now I got this from pri.org, all right. It says this speaking on Squanto. It says many of the facts of Squanto's life are disputed, but several things are beyond reasonable doubt. First, his name Squanto is also known as Tisquantinum, but neither is probably his real name. According to the Smithsonian Institute, the translation from Wampanoag language as divine revenge, this was a typical name in the period. This wasn't a typical name in the period, but it's the name that comes down through the historical record. So that, or that may not his name. Hey, it don't. That's not the point. His name is not the point. It's what he did. It says second. Now, if his name is, if it is divine revenge, that's because the Lord was using this guy to save you Edomites. All right, because you needed to fulfill prophecy. It says second, he was Winpanag. This was Winpanag is a tribe, one of the tribes, and was born and raised in a town of Putwax. It says now the site of Plymouth, Massachusetts. It says third, in 1614, Squanto and about 24 of other Putwax and Nooset men were tricked into boarding the ship of English traders. Thomas Hunt, they were beaten. English traders, Thomas Hunt tricked Squanto into entering to that ship. All right. They were beaten and tied up and taken away to be sold into slavery. So this guy Squanto, before the Pilgrim, this is in 1614, before 1620, he was fucking kidnapped and brought into slavery. He was kidnapped, brought into slavery over there in England, where he learned English, how to write, and how to basically live amongst the Europeans over there. And then he escaped. However he escaped and got back over here to the New World. You know, Jake is a supplanter. However he got out here, he came back, and that's how he came to help those pilgrims who later came in 1620. When they came over here and they was dying of the weather and, you know, dying of starvation. All right, it says second. I'm sorry, it says but he was sold into slavery first, man. This dude was snatched up. It says there are other let me see. All right, that's pretty it right there. Now, I found this other little article. It's truthfinder.com. It says the pilgrims were saved by starvation by Squanto, the friendly Indian. It says this is partially true, but it's not like Squanto helped the pilgrims out of goodwill. He didn't help them out of goodwill. You know, when I read the story and I go into it, I believe Squanto was trying to keep peace, seeing that these Europeans had came over here before 1614, before 16, they came over and they been stealing the land, colonizing themselves and killing off the Indians. This has been, all right? They've been doing it. So Squanto, I strongly believe Squanto just out of trying to keep peace between and stop the killing of his people, because when Squanto when he let me see. Yep, I'm gonna read it. In this very story, it's gonna tell you that Squanto, after he came back from he escaped out of his little slavery and came back, he found his people fucking put down dead, died of disease, you know, gunshot fires, you know. Let's read a little further. He said he didn't do it out of goodwill, man. It says here's the backstory. Tis Quantum, better known as Squanto, was from the Putwax tribe in modern-day Maine. In 1614, Squanto was kidnapped by English settlers and taken to Spain to be sold as a slave. He was rescued by local Catholic priests but fled to London. When Squanto returned to America, he discovered that his tribe had been decimated by disease, probably viral hepatitis, brought by the European settlers. Now, one of the articles I had read, you can search it if you want. When Squanto was kidnapped, when they tricked them dozen of Indians to go in there, it tell you that the Europeans left smallpox, they left smallpox and all different type of diseases when they left on purpose and dipped out. All right. So when he came back, he seen his tribe just decimated. Like, what the fuck? You know, this is boiling up to Thanksgiving. This is all boiling up to Thanksgiving. All right. It says during his search for survivor tribes, Squanto met the the Massasoit. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, but that's another tribe. I can always look it up how to pronounce it. The Massasoit, the leader of the Wimpanoag tribe. All right. He met this guy Massasoit, the leader of the Wimpanoag tribe, when he was looking for survivors. It says Massasoit took Squanto as a captive. Since the Wimpanoag had also been devastated by disease, so even the Wimpanoag tribe, when Esau left, he left all that disease. Was the Edomite, the so-called white man, he left that disease, which destroyed us. It destroyed all them tribes. It wasn't just the Patuax tribe, the Patuax tribe. I believe I'm saying it right. If I'm not saying it right, I mean, hope you ain't offended, but it don't really matter how I pronounce it. We're talking about something deeper here. It says, since the when Wimpanoag had also been devastated by disease, Squanto tried to convince Massasoit to ally with the groups of English settlers that had arrived in Massachusetts. So, see, the Squanto, this dude, the scriptures. I'm gonna go into. Damn, let me grab this real quick. I gotta drop these scriptures with this, man. This is Sirach 12:10. It says, "Never trust thy enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness." You ain't supposed to never trust your enemy. So when Squanto was trying to convince Massasoit to ally with the groups of the English settlers, I mean, you should never trust your enemy. But I could see where Squanto was trying to come from. He was trying to just keep the peace, seeing that all of his tribe has already been died off. And when he went to the Wimpanoag tribe, he was trying to convince the leader to just make a treaty, all right, so that everything could be cool. And as I go down further in these articles, you're gonna see how it makes sense. It says an alliance will help the Winnipeg fend off the threat of the Narragansett. This was a whole nother tribe, an enemy tribe that hadn't been devastated by disease. All right, so I don't know if that's true or not. They was basically saying it was Indian tribal war. So Squanto was trying to convince the leader of the Wimpanoag tribe to make a settlement with the Europeans, so that they could fight off the Narragansett tribe, so they could have allies with the Europeans to fight these Indian tribes, man. All right, it says the enemy tribe that hadn't been devastated by disease. And then check it out. The Narragansett tribe, when you read on them, they was the most powerful tribe at the time that was on the coastland. Them seeing how the Europeans came and did that, they want to just kill off the Europeans. That's it, man. They gotta get put to death. But you had guys like Squanto and them was trying to make covenants with the Europeans so that they could just try to keep the peace. So you can see how the scriptures say, never trust thy enemy, man. For as iron rusteth, so of his wickedness. It says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as thou hast wiped the looking glass. And thou shalt know that his rust have not altogether been wiped away. You can never trust these Europeans, these Edomites, these so-called white men. You can't trust them, man. All right, so let's go back a little further. It says, after the Pilgrims suffered their first winter in 1620, Massasoit decided to follow Squanto's advice, and that had to been true because they made a covenant. There was a covenant that was made that was broken. It says, using Squanto's help as translator, Massasoit signed a peace treaty with the Pilgrims. Squanto stayed with the English settlers to teach them fish, hunt, and cultivate corn. and to avoid captivity under Misyat. All right. It says, by the next fall, the pilgrim hosted a giant feast to celebrate their first successful harvest. So Thanksgiving goes back into the Native American Indians helping the European settlers, the pilgrims that came over here, how to cultivate the land, because they couldn't cultivate it. They was dying off. And when they had their first successful crop, they threw a celebration. Something like the Feast of Dedication in the scriptures, or when during the time of Nehemiah and Ezra, the dedication of the wall and the temple, when they finally got it, they celebrated. So that's how the Thanksgiving even came about. Them first and foremost being helped on how to cultivate the land and survive. They threw a celebration. And they did not invite, there's nowhere documented that they invited the Native Americans to come over here and eat turkey with us. It's documented they wasn't even eating turkey. You know, it was all that's a bunch of lies thrown in there, man. Now it says the first Thanksgiving feast was peaceful gathering of pilgrims and Native Americans. It wasn't exactly peaceful. No, it wasn't peaceful. It says on the feast day, Misyat showed up with 90 men, right? Many of them carried weapons. Some say Misyat crashed the party because he was alarmed by celebrating gunfire at the pilgrim camp. Others say the pilgrims' response with gunfire after Misyat arrived. Since the armed Winanag outnumbered the pilgrims 2-1, you can bet the feast was pretty awkward. Now check it out. It said that this guy Misyat showed up with 90 men. Where was that at? Was it in this one? Oh, here we go. I'm gonna get the backstory of the treaty and why did this dude show up with 90 men, and why was Esau shooting gunfire? All right, so when you jump to this wilderutopia.com, it says, I'm gonna jump right to it. It says, what did the treaty say? It basically said we let them be there, and we would protect them against any enemies, and they would protect us from any of ours. So this was this treaty was like, you get my back, I got your back treaty that they made. All right. It says the 2011 Native American copy coin commemorates the 1620 treaty between the Wimpanoag tribe and the Pilgrims of Plymouth Colony. It was basically, I'll watch your back, you watch mine agreement. Later on, we celebrated on jurisdictions and creating a system so that we could live together. So they basically was making treaties, man. But these treaties was broken. All right? These treaties was broken. All right? This is the scriptures tell you about the so-called white man. It says Psalms 55:20. He have put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. We helped him, you know. We wasn't necessarily just trying to chill with him, but we helped him, gave him his part of the land. We stay over here, you stay over there. But no, the Europeans got greedy. The Europeans wanted to do it their way, so they broke every treaty that there was out there. It says he put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. You can't be at peace with the devil. Good and evil will never. Good and evil are oppositions to each other. They will never get along. Never. They will never come to one like we're together. Never. The same thing with the 12 tribes of Israel and the so-called white man, the Europeans. You will never get together. All right. It says he have broken his covenant. Every treaty he made, he broke it. It says the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. He smooth talk you, but war is in his heart. His words are softer than oil, yet were he drawn swords. He is smooth talk you, but it's only to do something to gain over you. All right. Now let's check out this story. It said, what's the Mishpi version of the 1621 mill? All right. It says, you probably heard the story of how Squanto assisted in their planting of corn. So this was the first successful harvest, and they were celebrating the harvest and planning a day of their own Thanksgiving. It is kind of like what's on Thanksgiving. Let's jump down right here. I don't need to read all that. I read all this. It's not really, you know, it's when you jump down right here. If you want to read it yourself, go ahead. But when you jump right here, we need to get to the point. We don't need to make this long. It says, when they arrived, it was explained through a translator that they were celebrating the harvest. Matter of fact, let's read it. It says, I'm sorry. I'm going to read it. It says, so this was the first successful harvest, and they were celebrating the harvest and planning a day of their own Thanksgiving. And it is kind of like what some of the Arab nations do when they celebrate by shooting guns in the air. So when this feast happened, after they had their first successful harvest, they threw this feast for themselves. They were shooting guns in the air. You had these Edomites shooting guns in the air. All right. Sort of like I've seen it before. The Arabs, you could type it in on YouTube. Arabs shoot guns in the air to celebrate something that they're celebrating, but they shooting guns. It's something like how they was doing that, the Europeans, when they after this first harvest. It says, so this is what was going on over there at Plymouth. They were shooting guns and cannons as a celebration. Sound like Edomites to me, or white people to me, which alerted us because we did not know who they were shooting at. So they shooting all these guns, and then the Wimpanoag tribe was like, what the fuck going on? They thinking they finna get attacked, man. It says, so Maciot gathered up 90 warriors and showed up at the Plymouth prepared to engage. So the Indians showed up like, man, what the hell's going on? If that was what was happening, if they were taking any of our people, they didn't know. It was fact-finding mission. So they went out to see what the hell was going on. It says, when they arrived, it was explained through the translator that they were celebrating the harvest. So we decided to stay and make sure that it was true. Now, when they stayed, did they, eat turkey with them and all that crap? No. It says it says to sure that it was true because we seen in the other landings, Captain John Smith, even the Vikings had been here. So we wanted to make sure. So we decided to camp nearby a few days. So they got all these gunfires that was going off and everything. They decided to camp nearby just to make sure. Why? Because of what already have been occurring between the Europeans and the so-called Indians. All right. We know that the European, their words are softer than oil, but yet they would draw swords that kill you, man. All right. Devastation of the Indies is a good book. And that was around the 1400s. We're in the 1600s right here on this in this point in history. It says, during these few days, the men went out to hunt and gather food, deers, bucks, geese, and fish. There are 90 men here. And at that time, I think there was only 23 survivors of the boat. The Mayflower so can imagine the fear. So, they was fearful. These so-called white people was fearful, knowing the backdrop story of what the hell's going on between us and them. There was never no peace. There was never no sitting down eating some turkey, man. None of that stuff. All right. It says you have armed natives who are camping nearby. The colonists were always vulnerable in a new land, new creatures, even the trees. There was no such tree in England at the time. People forgot that they had just landed here, and this coastline looked very different from what it looks like now. So he's explaining how these Europeans were scared as hell, being so low in numbers, and you had these Indians camping nearby. In their culture, new foods, they were afraid to eat a lot of things, so they were very vulnerable, and we did protect them, just not support them. So they still, these Indian tribes, the Wimpanoag tribe was still like keeping their end of the bargain. It says you can see throughout their journeys that they were always nervous, and unfortunately, when they were nervous, they were very aggressive. When the so-called white man get nervous, we know he get aggressive. There's YouTube videos of this so-called white man pulling over Negro, Latino, Native American man, telling them to get out their ID. When they go to reach for their ID, the cop will shoot them because he was nervous. He was gonna pull out a gun. There was another incident where a guy was at a gas station, and this cop just pulled over the Negro, Latino, Native American man and just shot him. And the dude was on the floor bleeding, like, "Hey, why'd you shoot me?" And the dude said, "I don't know. I was like nervous." So seeing that was going on, these Europeans was breaking their treaties, man. All right, check it out though. This is I guess from a reference from a book called King Philip Matacom. It says before launching King Philip's war on the inhabitants of New England, because they called New England a place over there on the East Coast, they called it the New England when these pilgrims landed over there. It says the English who came first to this country were but a handful of people, forlorn, poor, and distressed. That's how they were when they first got here. My father, this is a son of the leader of the Winnipeg tribe. It says, my father, Misiat, did all in his power to serve them. He tried to keep his end of the bargain. Others came, their numbers increased. More Edomites start coming. Their numbers started increasing. My father's counselors urged him to destroy the English before they become strong enough to give law to the Indians and take away their country. The counselors of the leader of the Winnipeg tribe tried to tell him, all right, get rid of these dudes before they grow in numbers and put you under their law and take away their country. And now where we at? What point in history are we at? The land is took from us, and we're under his law. You do anything to break the so-called white man's law, you will be persecuted. It says, my father was also the father to the English. He remained their friend. Experience shows that his counselors was right. Time showed that the leader of the Wimpanoag tribe counselors was right to get rid of these dudes. It says the English disarmed my people, the European, the native, the Europeans, the so-called white men, the Edomites, disarmed the so-called Indians, tribe of Gad, Reuben. They tried them by their own laws and assist damages my people could not pay. Sometimes the cattle of the English will come into the cornfield of my people, for they did not make fences like the English. I must then be seized and confined till I sold another tract of my country for damages and costs. So they just came over here, set up shop, and did what they want to do after that point, man. We allowed them to set shop up over there, right? We made a treaty with them. In the process of time, they increased in numbers, and they did exactly what the scriptures say. All right. I'm gonna jump back in Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Oh, matter of fact, 55 and 20. He had put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He had broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were he drawing swords. All right. We helped this dude out, and he broke these laws over a process of time. So that whole fucking eating together. That never happened. That never happened. And the reason why our people was even over there is because these damn devils was shooting up guns in the air, and they was thinking that they was getting attacked or something, man. Right? But let me finish a little bit of this. It says, thus track after track is gone. So these Europeans slowly was taking the track or the land slowly. It says, but a small part of the dominion of my ancestors remain. Now you got Indians living on little small reservations. I am determined not to live till I have no country. I am determined not to live till I have no country. And now, where are we at? Where are we at, man? Where are we at? Where are we at? All right. Let's go back to Sirach 12 and 10. Never trust thy enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not altogether been wiped away. So you could the white man could crouch down and act like he cool and everything, but just as iron rusted, and you could wipe rust off, and then you come back a couple of days later, it's back rusty, the same thing, you're gonna know that this dude is just prone to do wickedness. He's geared to do wickedness. All right. It says, set him not by thee. Don't put him by you. Don't make no agreements with this dude. Least when he have overthrown thee, he stand in thy place. Now it's not no more the land of the tribes. All right, but it's called the United States. He's standing in your place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou shalt at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. Now we remembering the Most High words. All right, because we pricked with it. You pricked with the pain and sorrow of somebody snatching your land up, playing with you, man. So that's how even Thanksgiving even came about. It had to do with us helping them out, them getting their first crops, them celebrating, us going over there to see what the hell was going on. All right? Scared the shit out them motherfuckers. These damn Edomites. And over a period of time, they broke that covenant. That covenant was broken. All right? Now check this story out. Later on to about 1630, was it 1637? Oh yeah, they tore us up. The tribe of Gad and Reuben, they already had, when they was jacking all of us up. The Negroes was already over here getting jacked up. All right, the Negroes was being brought over here getting jacked up. And the Puerto Ricans, their land was getting, man, these Edomites, these so-called white men was going to work. But check this out. The real Thanksgiving story. All right. Matter of fact, let me read this. Oh, you know what? I'm going to read this first. It says, most of us associate the holiday with happy pilgrims and Indians sitting down to a big feast. And that did happen once. The story began in 1614 when a band of English explorers sailed home to England with a ship full of Petuac Indians bound for slavery. Remember, they tricked these Indians to going into that ship and brought them over there to England. It says they left behind smallpox, which virtually wiped out. I'm sorry, let me make this a little slightly bigger. Which wiped out those who had escaped. See, by the time the Pilgrims arrived in Massachusetts Bay, they found only one living Petuac Indian, a man named Squato, who had survived slavery in England and knew their language. He taught them to grow corn, fish, and negotiate a peace treaty between the Pilgrims and the Wimpanoag Nation. At the end of the first year, the Pilgrims held a feast honoring Squanto and the Wimpanoags. It says, but as the word spread in English about the paradise to be found in the New World, Religious zealots called Puritans began arriving by the boatload. Finding no fence around the land, they considered it to be a public domain. Just because you came over here with no fences don't mean that you could come chill. But these so-called white people has things like that in their heart. It said, joined by other British settlers, they seized the land, capturing strong young natives for slavery and killing the rest. But the Pequot nation had not agreed to the peace treaty Squanto had negotiated, and they fought back. The Pequot War was one of the bloodiest Indians wars ever fought. So now we over here fighting for our land now. We fighting for our land, right? That's crazy. It says in 1637, Slakia. Go back real quick.
Hi, I'm Paul.
It says in 16. Sorry, let me. I gotta have this playing in the background. I'm sorry. Jumping back. It says in 1637, near present day Gorton, Connecticut, over 700 men, women, and children of the Pequot tribe had gathered for their annual green corn festival, which is of our Thanksgiving celebration. All right. It says in the pre-dawn hours, the sleeping Indians were surrounded by English and Dutch mercenaries who ordered them to become outside. Those who came out were shot and clubbed to death, while the terrified women and children who huddled inside the longhouse were burned alive. The next day, the governor of the Massachusetts Bay declared a day of Thanksgiving because 700 unarmed men and children had been murdered. See? This celebration, I mean, Thanksgiving is nothing but a celebration of the death of Indians, man. That's it. That's all it is. All right? That's all it is, man. You can read the rest of this. You know, I pretty much hit everything I want to say. This, you know, Thanksgiving is nothing for us to be celebrating. You know, if the white man want to celebrate it, hey, that's it. Go ahead, you damn devil. This is John 10:10. The thief cometh not but to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it abundantly. All right, so the white man ain't coming to do nothing but to kill and destroy. Thanksgiving is nothing but a day of fucking death and destruction, of us trusting in our damn enemy. All right. So I pretty much hit everything I want to hit. I hope you was edified. I'm going to say Barak, Yahawah, Barak, Yahawashi, Shalawam, Shalawam.